TNS has summarized many behavior patterns of car buyers. What challenges and opportunities will this behavior pattern bring to the marketing of China's automakers?
Yeah, when we talk specifically about the domestic car brands, then we have to see that again the market today is relatively immature, and the buyers are not very experienced when buying cars. Now, in this situation, the functional aspects are very important. Now, when we look into all our studies, the results tell us that the Chinese cars are perceived with a relatively low level of safety and with a very low level of quality of workmanship. So these are basic requirements and basic expectations for the car buyers, and certainly in order to improve the situation for the Chinese brands, these issues have to be addressed, and it means simply that the products have to be better. Then obviously we have a second aspect, which is the branding itself, because we have obviously the foreign brands with a lot of brand power coming into the market. So the Chinese car manufacturers have to work on their brand establishment. And the third case we have talked about before with the dealerships, the importance of the dealerships, because they are the custodians of the brand promise, and they're actually translating the brand efforts into the service for the consumers. So we have also to make sure, the Chinese car makers have to make sure that the performance of the dealers at the point of sales is better, and this is reflecting actually the expectations of the consumers.
From your research result, what kind of recommendations you can give Chinese automakers in terms of marketing strategy?
Well, actually, I would take this point again. The first necessity to do is certainly to improve the products. In a market which is maturing, and we are in China in such a market, still young, but very quickly maturing, consumers become more demanding. So people want to have better cars. But at the same time, when the market is maturing in a competitive environment, the functional aspects which are important become interchangeable. So which means all manufacturers and all brands are actually offering a high level of product quality in the market. So at this moment it will be important to establish a brand, and this is probably the most important that the Chinese car manufacturer have to consider, because brand building needs a lot of time. So you have to obviously invest also money, but also to be patient in order to build up a good brand equity. And this is also the reason why all the car manufacturers today actually are investing a lot of time and a lot of efforts in positioning their brands. And once you have a good brand personality and you have a good brand positioning, then obviously we are in a good position also to sell cars to a specific target group.
Your investigation indicates the Chinese local brands' customer loyalty is not as good as the international car brands. So what difficulties will this phenomenon bring to the marketing strategy to local brands in China?
Well, the difficulty would be that in the long term, if the Chinese car manufacturers do not change the situation, in the long term they would have difficulties to be successful. When we look today into the Chinese car market, then we see that the Chinese brands are successful, but they are successful in the lower segment markets, and the choice and the purchase of these small and low value vehicles are mainly driven by price. So which means that the brand is not that important, and the fact that the Chinese car manufacturers do not have a strong brand yet is not so important for the smaller cars. But as the market is maturing, as demand is growing, obviously people don't want to have just cheap cars, they want to have better cars and bigger cars, and then actually they want obviously to go into brand valued cars also. So for the Chinese manufacturers it will be very important to build up brands in order to be also capable to go into the much more interesting higher value markets, because in the higher value segments in the market you can also earn more money, and obviously there the brand value is much more important also. So in order to be successful for the future and to avoid that the Chinese brands are losing out against the foreign car makers, brand building is extremely important.
What do foreign, the global automakers think of Chinese local brands or homegrown automakers?
Well, at this moment, it is very clear that there is still a deficit in product quality, also in China, but also in foreign countries. When we are asking consumers about Chinese brands, then we see that actually the issue of safety and the issue of product quality has to be improved. So people abroad simply think that the Chinese are not yet producing good cars and high quality cars. And again, this is important because this is a very essential requirement specifically of mature markets and very demanding consumers. Now at the same time we see that the Chinese brands are seen as value for money, which means that actually they can be positioned as not expensive cars in the market. And this may be in future a competitive advantage, because obviously not only in China but also in the other markets people want to have obviously cars that they can afford. Now if we see that the cars from China are seen as value for money, we also have to make sure, and car manufacturers in China have to make sure, that the quality is good, because if the quality is not good enough, then it becomes cheap, and cheap means that actually you don't want really to buy it. Only a small group of people who are going into the price logic, and you cannot reach these higher value vehicle segments where you can basically build up a brand and also earn a decent margin of profits then.
Your research has found some problem with China's auto industry, problem with Chinese automakers. Do you think this problem is common to all emerging auto markets, or it is unique to Chinese automakers?
Well,